I have the chills, by the way.
There was something in me that just freaking knew that if I did not buy that RV and take off and live as Wendy would live, it would be my only regret. Staying stuck is exhausting. Starting over is exhausting. But then why not go after the road, go down that route, the one less traveled, the one that leads back to the person that you truly are?
Are you in a season of life where you know something has to change, but you have no idea what that change is supposed to look like? Maybe the life you built no longer fits, it no longer feels good. The goals that used to excite you, they don't feel the same. You're craving something different, but the answer isn't coming in fast enough. And that in between season can feel incredibly uncomfortable because you're no longer who you were, but you haven't fully stepped into who you're becoming yet. And you're in this in between, which is known as the liminal space, or I sometimes refer to it as the long hallway. And you don't know when that's going to end, and you're not seeing any open doors. My guest today, Wendy Valentine, went through what many people would consider a complete life unraveling, a rock bottom. I'm talking divorce, extreme grief, debt, a cross country move, a complete career reinvention. But instead of seeing that season as the end of her story, she used it as the beginning of a life that was more aligned, more intentional, and more true to who she really was. And it changed her entire life. She's the best selling author of Women Waking Up, the Midlife Manifesto for Passion, Purpose, and Play. And she's also the host of the podcast, The Midlife Makeover Show. This story is going to validate you and also give you that dose of empowerment and encouragement to keep going that I know you need right now. And before we dive in, I want to share something with you. One of the biggest things I've learned from working with thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs is that growth gets a whole lot easier when you stop trying to figuring everything else on your own, trying to deal with it all by yourself. Having the right support, the right conversations, the guidance, and being surrounded by people who are also committed to growing and creating their best life and not settling for anything less is only going to put you in the frequency faster and have your new identity cement in sooner. And that's why I created the Posse, which is my monthly community for entrepreneurs. You can be starting from scratch, you can be many years in. The same emotional thread as you want ongoing strategy, support, accountability, and connection as you build your business and life that actually feels damn good, that you're excited to wake up for and settling for nothing less any longer. Weekly live trainings. You get access to how to start everything from scratch if that's where you are in the online space, or if you want to have some more in depth trainings. If you're already someone who's been around a while, I've got it all in there for you, beautifully organized, Virgo style. So you can go to projectmewithtiffany.com/project me posse, swipe up, the all the resources for today's episode are inside the show notes here on Apple and Spotify and in the description on Project Me TV on YouTube. If you need to pause it to go into the posse, it's projectmewithtiffany.com/project me posse. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? It's your host, Tiffany Carter, and this is the show that is going to help you grow your business, your bank account, that big, beautiful brain of yours, your abundance, your relationships, and everything in between. Well, we're coming in hot this morning, and this is being recorded with Tiff at 9 a.m. my time because our insane guest today, which is part of her story, she uprooted her life and said, fuck it. And she's in Portugal doing whatever she wants, living the way that she wants to live, regardless of what anyone thinks about it. And I'm like, you know what? I can get up and have some coffee and talk to this biatch. And so here we are with Wendy Valentine. You may have heard her name before because she is the author of the best-selling book, Women Waking Up. So she focuses on midlife. And that term gives me a little bit of a rash Okay. And I'm sure that's not the first time you've heard it because it's like, well, what does that mean? Because someone could be at midlife at 30 if they're going to die at 60, but you have no
Hmm.
idea when you're going to die. And so I'm curious what your definition of it, but where she goes with this, and you'll see in this episode, because I know I have people from ages, 20 to 80 years old that listen
Yeah.
to this show. If it were me and I could hear a way of being able not just to have permission, but how to even go about doing a major life overhaul and a major shift without like blowing my life up and ending up living in a tent. I would have started this podcast way sooner.
Yeah.
I would have left relationships way sooner. I would have dumped toxic friendships sooner. I would have removed toxic clients from my business, employees, so many things so much sooner. But there weren't people like you not just talking about it. What I love about her, and you guys have to go to her Instagram at Hello Wendy Valentine, because then you're going to see the receipts. You show what you do, you live it. There's a lot of people and a lot of famous experts who talk about all sorts of shit, but you don't see them actually like living it and sharing real life examples, which you also do on your show, The Midlife Makeover Show. And I'm going to be on her show in a little while. So you guys will also be able to hear that episode. So let's start off, Wendy, with I want to hear your raw definition of midlife and if that
Uh,
term ever used to give you a rash.
it actually did, and thank you so much, by the way, for having me on the Project Wendy podcast. This is my show, damn it. Yeah, so midlife, I mean, technically, it's between the age of 40 and 60, but I could not agree with you more because, for example, not to go ahead and everyone take out your violin, but my first husband died at the age of 26.
Oh,
So when
shit.
I think, yeah, when I think about midlife, I'm like, "God, that poor guy never even made it close to quote unquote midlife, right? And my brother died at 49. So yeah, some people like barely get to midlife. But if we're going according to the dictionary, it's 40 to 60. But I actually did create a new term, and it's called midlifeology because midlife technically defines the age 40 to 60. But midlifeology is actually the study of the human being as they go through this phase in life, which is much different, I feel, than if you're in your 20s and 30s. Because if you're like everybody else, like I did, you checked off all the boxes, kids, career, marriage, house in the burbs in your 20s and 30s. And what's different about midlife is that you arrive and you've been doing all sorts of things, sometimes robotically, right? And you get to that phase and you kind of wonder like, who am I and what am I doing all of this stuff for? Right? And things will start to change whether you like it or not. You can fight it if you want to, but it does you no good. Your body changes, your relationships change. Your parents are getting older, unfortunately, sometimes passing away, just like my dad just did a few months ago.
Ugh.
Your birdies are leaving the nest. Like everything is changing in this chunk of time. For some people, it comes gradually, if you're lucky.
Yeah,
And
that's not my story.
yeah, and or like me, everything hit all at once. So I'll tell you my breakdown to breakthrough story. So about 7 years ago, I was in my late 40s and I was going through my second divorce, empty nest. I was unemployed, $150,000 in debt.
Oof.
Ouch. And going through black mold toxicity, chronic Lyme disease. And just for fun, we're going to toss in menopause, because that's always a blast. And then, like I said, to top it off, my brother had just died. And I can remember having this complete breakdown moment, like literally lying on the bathroom floor, bawling my freaking eyes out, feeling completely powerless, really, over my body, my mind, my finances, my relationship, my entire life. And then I thought about it. I was like, have I ever really owned my freaking power? Because it was only 30 years before that that I was alone as a pregnant teenager. I was physically and emotionally abused. Buried my first husband when he was only 26 years old. But I became an expert at one thing and one thing only, and that was taking care of everybody else but me. So there I was on that cold bathroom floor, mascara streaks everywhere, and literally feeling like I wasn't sure if I'd make it to my 50th birthday. It kind of makes me want to cry. Um, but my saving grace, my saving vision in that moment. Now, most people probably like see God or angels in a moment like that. They see the light. But me, I saw an RV.
That I was
Like
not
a
expecting.
motorhome. I know. And I had this vision of me driving an RV across the country. And I imagine this gorgeous, sleek, and sexy black RV, like driving into the Sedona sunset and with the windows down and singing along and just having like the best fucking time of my life. But here's what I was excited about the most with this crazy out of the blue vision. It wasn't the RV, it wasn't the sunset, it wasn't even like the navy blue Pottery Barn pillows I envisioned on the couch. It was the woman in the driver's seat.
There comes a point in life where more information is not the answer. You chewing and overthinking and analyzing only makes you further away from the clarity that you're seeking. You don't need another course to consume, another strategy to save, another year of trying to figure everything out on your own. What you need is a personalized strategy, someone who can see the blind spots in your business, help you make decisions that are going to get you to where you want to go much faster, and guide you through the moves that will create your next level of wealth and how you get to that wealth. Because some of you make pretty damn good money, but the issue is you don't have a life and you're tired of operating that way and you want to operate differently to give yourself those slow mornings, the opportunity to take a month off while still having money rolling in and not having to worry about that. Now, I rarely open my private coaching because I intentionally keep my client roster small to a maximum of 4 people. But after making some changes behind the scenes, I've decided to open a very small number of additional private coaching spots. This is my highest level of support where we customize everything. So if you are at a point where you're like, you know what, fuck it, enough's enough already. I don't want to waste any more time. The half of the year is gone already, and I want to get to the end of this year and be popping bottles and celebrating and planning big trips and maybe buying that dream house, maybe even letting your foot off the gas of one of your businesses or quitting a corporate career that is dragging your ass down. You want to have those things happen. They don't just happen by chance, they don't happen just by luck. You have to actually set yourself up for it. And I know you know that and you've been dragging your feet on it. And if you're in that spot, this is the fastest way to get there. You can swipe up the application for my exclusive 2 month private business coaching program is in the show notes on Apple, Spotify, and here on YouTube at ProjectME TV. This is not a link that's available in my link in bio or to the general public, anything like that. So this is exclusive here. Apply. We'll see if it's a great fit. And you know what to do. If you need to pause the episode and go do that because you so feel called, I would do that before you get distracted by some other crazy thought in your head. Let's get back to the episode.
And it was a woman that was happy. She was healthy. She was financially free. She finally followed her freaking dream of becoming an author and an inspirational speaker. That is what excited me the most. And it was the only hope I had in such a long time. And I stood up from that cold bathroom floor and I literally imagined what it would feel like driving down Route 66. And I could feel what it would be like to be that woman. But very quickly, my inner critic shot the whole fucking dream down. And I looked in the mirror, and that voice, that nasty bully in my head, said, "What makes you think that you could make this happen? You're broke, you're sick, you have no job. Like, what makes you think that you can actually become a happy and healthy and financially free woman?" And I gave up on that dream in like a second. And then, thank God, there was another thought that came through. And it was like the Robert Frost quote: "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference." And I realized I was at a crossroads because either A, I could go down that same familiar road of misery, the woman that I had been my entire life. And I'll admit that in some ways that was comfortable because even though, right, like it's darkness, it was depression, it was anxiety, but I knew how to do it. And I was like, I could hang there, I could stay there and be that miserable woman because it's in some ways predictable. Or I could choose this other road of chasing the stream, going after that happy and healthy woman in that driver's seat. And yes, incredibly freaking risky. But here's the thing, each road would take a shit ton of effort, right? Because staying stuck is exhausting, starting over is exhausting. But then why not go after the road and go down that route, the one less traveled, the one that leads back to the person that you truly are? So, which one do you think I took?
What comes up for me? I have the chills, by the way. And for me to have the
Oh,
chills this early in the morning, which I'm going to keep bringing up, you guys. Um, wow, you're right. When you said before we started, we have our circumstances and details are different, but very and timelines, but very similar. Hence the name of the show, Project Me. You're the most exceptional project of your life. And part
yep.
of why I had to name it that was to remind myself because that inner critic is
Ah,
so loud and so nasty. Why do you think in that moment or in that time period it didn't take over again? Because I know there had to be hundreds of times that inner bully took over, stopped your dreams, stopped you from setting the boundaries, stopped you from leaving, stopped you from starting to write the book. Countless times. What do you think was different this time?
I was so fed up with the old Wendy, with the Wendy of yesterday. I knew that if I wanted a new tomorrow, I had to stop repeating yesterday. And those thoughts and in my mind were so loud that it was nauseating to hear it. And I was just like, I can't do this. And just like George Costanza on Seinfeld, do you remember when he did Opposite Day?
I faintly. I was doing
He did everything
a lot
opposite. If
of
he's
activities back in the day, so my memory is a little foggy.
If he used to order tuna sandwich, he started ordering salmon, the one that just goes up the stream instead of down. So I literally thought of that. I was like, what if I just did the opposite of everything that I've done? Whether
Because
that
how
be my
couldn't it get you somewhere different?
yes. I mean, and here's the thing, like sometimes I think there's changes that happen in your life, whether it could be proactive or reactive, right? Sometimes we either put in our resignation or we get fired from our job. We're either the ones serving the divorce papers or they get served to us, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I had no choice. My life was deconstructing completely, and there was nowhere else to go but up at that point. And the very first thing that I did, I went to my couch, I grabbed my journal, and I didn't make a to-do list of like, okay, this is what I need to do to make this happen, or dream and write about the next man or the next job, all that. I didn't
God,
do
I
any of that.
hope you didn't write about the next man.
No, I didn't. But what I did do is something I don't think we do enough of. I wrote about that woman in the driver's seat in detail. And as if a drone was flying over, observing this woman, how did she wake up in the mornings? How did she how did she speak to herself when she looked in the mirror? How did she walk into a room? How did she what kind of boundaries did she have? What kind of relationships did she have? How did she eat? How did she move? Like literally in detail. I dreamt of this amazing, extraordinary woman that had just been pushed and squished down for decades. And that was the most important thing I think I've ever done was to envision her, which is, well, me.
Did you have any idea when you were envisioning her, writing about her, how in the hell you were going to, so to speak, resurrect her? Because I myself know just from being in toxic relationships, toxic friendships, all the microaggressions, you can be left as a shell of yourself
Yeah.
where you've drifted so far away from your true self that you don't even remember who that is.
Yes, exactly. I have several answers for that. So the very first thing I did is I called my greatest cheerleader in my entire life, which is my Aunt Annie. She's 93 now. And I called her and I told her, I was like, oh my God, I had this really wild dream of driving an RV across the country and becoming this really cool, amazing woman. And there was silence on the other end. I was like kind of waiting, like, well, darling, I was thinking she was gonna be like, that's crazy.
Like,
You
that's
need to just
irresponsible.
get a real job type of thing. Um, and she said, well, darling, she said, you've always wanted to be an actress. So why don't you just act like the woman you want to become? It's like, oh, okay. So I did. And every single morning, I stepped into the shoes of that woman every single day, even when I didn't feel like it. I would ask myself, how does Wonder Wendy think? How would Wonder Wendy respond to that? If someone treated Wonder Wendy like that, obviously I gave myself a name.
No, I love that. I think I was just going to say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's
No,
important
no.
enough to name this version of yourself
Hmm.
because that's what would happen if you are developing a character,
Yes, you have to make that cheerleader in your head louder than the critic
which
because
is
this right
which is
here
not
is
fucking
not
easy some
easy.
days. Like I'm
No.
talking
Yeah.
like I mean you're nuts, I can tell. You're a fellow crazy, and it's in the best compliment possible. But I'm imagining your brain is like this because you've done so much
Mhm.
inner work as well. And I feel
Yes.
the more self-aware we are, the louder that ego and
Yes.
stronger it gets. It's almost like
Mhm.
getting antibacterial resistance,
Yep.
and it gets really clever and manipulative. So my guess
Yeah.
is on some days, even now,
Oh, yeah,
as you're
yeah, yeah.
expanding, up leveling, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
I bet you are managing that motherfucker all day.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? It gets easier and easier. It really does. And I'm gonna, because I told you earlier, I had a epiphany, Tiffany, this morning, but I'm gonna save it.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I do want to make the point that so many of us, myself included, we worried too much about the what, when, where, why, and how. And we do forget about the who. I mean, how many times do we ask ourselves the question, who do I want to be? Independent of what everyone else thinks or believes or what Instagram wants or society or culture or religion, right? What do I want? I think that is the most important question that you can ask yourself. So going back to that moment for me, and this is crazy because the moment that I think that you give yourself permission, and when you go, okay, Project Me, let's go time, shit just falls in your lap. Like it just, the stars start to align. 4 weeks from that moment on that bathroom floor, I got a job offer in Chicago. I was living in Virginia at the time, a job I had never done in my entire life. And it was selling new construction houses. I was like, I don't know how to
Honestly,
sell.
though, I could see you being very good at that.
I was so damn good at it. Oops. I was so damn good at it that I became the number one sales consultant in that first year. Okay. So, yes, 4 weeks. I pack up the house. I drive a U-Haul from Virginia to Illinois. I'm not a Midwest girl at all, even though I was born in St. Louis. But I was like, and here's the thing, there's a point to this, y'all. Sometimes you have to take a job you don't necessarily want, maybe to move to a place that you don't want to live, right? It's just temporary. And remind yourself of that, right? It's a stepping stone to get you to where you really need to be.
Or even
And
stay at a job that you don't love
exactly.
temporarily to fund whatever it is you're
Yep.
doing.
Yep. And there's a term in yoga called drishti. So like when you're doing a tree pose, for example, and you focus on a dot on the wall so you don't fall over, what is your drishti? What is your focal point? Like for me, my focal point was that woman in the driver's seat. I was like, I'm gonna freaking become her. That was my focal point. That was my drishti the entire freaking time. Even when I was like driving in the snow on the Chicago
I mean,
highways
I'm
and
from
dreading going
Chicago,
to work.
so that's real,
Yeah.
guys.
But so for 2 years, I dove in like I never had before into self-help. I read every self-help book out there. I went to therapy. I did meditation. I did yoga. I did journaling. You name it. I I went all out to become this woman. And the more I envisioned her and the more I got closer to her and I could feel like I was becoming her, the more exciting it
And
became,
then it
right?
like fueled your
Yes.
your energy and momentum, and
Yes.
even probably like proof of concept. Like
Yeah.
it kept
I'm like, shit, this
reinforcing
is
like
working.
this is, yeah, it's possible. It's here for you. I have a
Oh.
tangible question.
Yes.
How did you, in that transition when you're going to Chicago, you hadn't yet started this job, you're 150 grand in debt. How did you pay during that period? Because I know for a
Mm,
lot of people, they get stuck
yeah.
on that because they're either
Yeah.
coming out of, a relationship where there's, financial entanglement, or they're so
Mhm.
afraid of, especially after a certain age, they're so afraid of using up their savings or maybe like utilizing their 401k or taking out a second
Yep.
mortgage on their house to fuel their dream because of the what if this doesn't work?
Yes.
So, how
Yep.
did you make this happen? Because when you're in that much debt, my guess is you didn't have that much access to
I kept
credit.
going. I went in more debt.
Okay.
And I did. I did. But I tell you what, that first check could not come fast enough. I mean, when I got to Chicago, I got there on a Saturday. I started my job on Monday, and I was like, "Oh my God, I need a
Like it was,
paycheck."
you were cutting it on the line.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, within 2 years, I went from making $0 to over a half a million. So I sold over $45 million worth of houses, which is insane in the membrane.
Insane.
And again, keeping my eye on the prize, right? And that moment came where I was like, okay, I think it's time. Like, am I really going to do this? Am I actually going to go buy an RV? Like, leave this comfy job. It was another comfort zone.
Right. Because I'm so happy this happened to you.
I
Because even
know.
before we got on, and you started even talking where you're like, well, I had nothing to lose. And I was like, God,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of myself and other people listening because they'll have a big corporate job or they'll have a career they've done their whole
Mm,
life that they want to leave. But now you have another thing that could tether you. So you
yeah.
actually experienced this.
Yeah.
You now would sound insane to most people to leave this job that's making you $500,000.
Yeah. I know.
How did you
There was
take
this,
us through that?
there was a voice that said, I had no regrets at this point, and I knew that if I didn't do this, there was something in me that just freaking knew that if I did not buy that RV and take off and live as Wendy would live, it would be my only regret. I would always wonder what would happen. When would I have become that woman? Would I have just like settled into another comfort zone, right? A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. So I had to push myself out of that comfort zone again.
I think
And
that's even harder. Would you
it is,
agree?
it was so freaking hard. There's actually, because I sold everything because in order to, I went from 5,000 square feet down to 1,000 square feet apartment in Chicago down to 100 square feet. Okay, my RV is like the size of the closet that I had. So I sold everything, furniture, clothes, you name it. I got rid of everything. And I had this moment in that apartment in Chicago, and I was sitting on the floor and I was surrounded by boxes and bins that I had ready to go into the RV because the next day I was scheduled to fly to Nashville to buy this RV. And I sat there and I was having that moment of shit, do I do this? Is this stupid? And there, inside one of the boxes, it was a quote by Marianne Williamson. I had it on like a little painted piece of wood or whatever. And Williamson said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
Ooh,
And I asked
that
myself,
one gets
yeah, I
me, man.
know. Because yeah, I mean, we should all ask ourselves, like, what if I did step into my light? What if I truly, completely step into my light? What would I have to do? Who would I have to be? And I was like, shit, I am scared of my life because here it was, I was about to, like, the RV wasn't even really that scary to me. It was, oh my gosh, I'm officially putting myself into unemployment again. I'm going to start this business as a podcaster and as an author. I don't know if I'll ever get a book deal. I don't know if I'm like, I don't know, like total unknown and uncertainty. But I knew I had to do it. I just knew it. There's no explanation to it.
Did
And so
you
I
have
did.
any fear, speaking of the light? For me, it's more about because I was raised by a narcissist.
Mm,
So
hmm
mine was more about, I get really teared up at this, but mine was and still is. I think it's important for you guys to hear. You can do all this work on this stuff. It still fucking pops up that I'm going to be punished. There's going to be a
mm,
price I'm going to have to pay from fully stepping into my light and
yep.
being that, so to speak, shining and highly visible because it's so ingrained in me, not just from my mom, but I also was in relationships with people, men and women, who, as soon
hmm
as I would shine, would disappear, would minimize me, would push me down. So it kept reinforcing it's not safe to shine. It sounds like you
Oh
can
my
speak
God.
to
You and I are so,
that.
you're my sister from another mister. Oh my God, we're so connected. Yes. So I can totally relate to what you're saying, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I think I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to that. When when I was 10 years old, I was abandoned. And moment, I became a really good perfectionist, people pleaser, approval seeker, codependent, you name it. I rocked every single one of those freaking labels because I had to. Because I had to do it to survive. I had to make sure that Wendy was a good little girl so that no one would abandon her and no one would leave her. And I'm just going to oh, do you want me to shrink a little bit? Okay, how much? Okay, I'll go down here. Okay, no problem. Until I realized that I actually became my greatest fear. I always feared being left behind or being abandoned. And then I realized that I became that fear, that I was the one abandoning myself. And I was like, no more, I cannot do this anymore. I am no longer going to abandon this little girl that was just doing the best that she could to maneuver through the freaking madness that she was put into in her life. It's like, no, I can't do it anymore. I mean, otherwise you just collapse trying to be all things to all people and nothing to yourself. It's the worst. So yeah, it's you and I talked about this a little bit before we hit record about just kind of like setting those boundaries and if you've never had them before because we weren't allowed to have them, how dare you have a boundary and tell me what the hell to do, right?
I knew it wasn't an option, so I didn't even bother.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I even talked about this in my book. The two times, one I was pregnant when I was pregnant at 18, and a couple years after that, another time I set a boundary, and both times I was abused. The first time emotionally, which it sometimes hurts just as much, and the second time I was physically beaten down to the ground.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I thought, oh, okay, we don't do boundaries. No, no, no.
Right.
Mm-mm. Because that's what happens.
It
If you,
comes with dire
yes,
consequences.
yeah. Because otherwise you're going to end up in a fight or you're going to have to like, oh my God, no. Okay, I'll just stay small. That's easier. It's smoother that way. So I never
And
had
it is
boundaries.
in some ways,
hmm
but the cost,
Yeah.
like you said, is total self-abandonment, misery, lack of fulfillment, and sickness.
Yes. And you know what, too? I think one of my fears in setting boundaries in taking care of myself and creating that project me was losing relationships. And I did. And I'm okay with that. Yes, they weren't good for me anyways, right? I love this analogy of with Michelangelo. When they asked him how he carved the statue of David, he said, I just carved away at everything that was not him till I actually got to that inner angel inside that marble, right? We're the same way. Like we have to carve away at the shit that is not us. And whether that be toxic relationships or crappy careers or a bad environment, all of those things, beliefs, thoughts, values or no values, like all of that, like you chip the shit away so that you can get to your authentic inner angel because no one's going to do it for you. You're going to be walking around in life. Like that's the thing about midlife. By the time you get your 50s and 60s, you're carrying around this big hunk of marble. It's like, it's heavy and it's exhausting.
Is that where you focus on the midlife stuff? Because what we're talking about truly
Yeah,
apply would I would have loved to have heard at fucking 25.
I know.
So it would have helped me then. But what is the reason at midlife? Do you feel it's because when we get to, and it can be a different age for everyone. For me, it was 37. Okay.
Hmm.
36, 37. But you guys have to understand, I've, our story, I ran hard, lived hard, I went to off myself. So,
Mm-mm.
but it's still in that range. I
Wow.
feel that you can pull off self-abandoning, the people pleasing, all the bullshit. You can pull it off, and even your body physically, health wise, especially if
Hmm.
you're a stubborn motherfucker like me, you can pull it off until about the wheels start falling off the bus. There's hints of it at like 34, and
Yeah.
then it gets louder and louder. Do you feel like that's kind of what happens at midlife where it's screaming at you and you can't deny it any longer?
Yeah. I mean, eventually it catches up with you, right? I mean, I'll equate it to something like food, right? And then in my 20s, I used to be able to drink a Mountain Dew and eat a little sour, what were those things called? Sour straws, you know? I could eat that almost every day and not gain a pound. But eventually that shit catches up with you, right? You can't all then equating it back to thoughts and beliefs and behaviors, right? That shit eventually piles on. And it's a lot. It's a lot to carry. And here's the thing, you don't have to carry it. You just put it down. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things you realize you're like, oh, I could have just put this shit down. No one told me. But we thought, just like you did, we thought we had to carry it because
Well,
we
and
were
it
carrying
feels very
everybody else.
scary
It does.
because it's so foreign to put it down. So when you're in
Mm.
this RV, the pretty picture storybook version
Yeah.
could be, and everything from then on, everything you touched turned to gold. And, the roads were paved with rainbows, and you never ended up in any form of fear. But my guess is, and I truly, you guys don't know her story in detail on purpose. So, because I want to have a genuine reaction with you guys. So, what is the story? What happened? Was this
Even after.
was this road of rainbows, or were there a lot of potholes?
Um, Both actually. So from that moment when I was, the Marianne Williamson moment, I was like, should I go get this RV? So the next day, I flew from Chicago to Nashville, and on Saturday I bought the RV. Largest check I had ever handed over. I was like, oh my God. Didn't know how to drive an RV. But I was so freaking excited. And I drove that RV back on Sunday in the pouring rain. If you know how it storms or rains all the freaking time over there. It was dark, it was nasty. And I drove all the way back to Chicago. And on Monday morning, I quit my job. And I walked in, and I'll never forget the look on my boss's face. I loved, he's such a great guy. He seemed he was like another brother to me. And like, he knew I was there. And I had this whole speech planned, and it like totally went out the window. And I was like, I bought an RV and I'm going to take off across the country and start a podcast. He goes, okay. And you know what he said to me? It was the nicest fucking thing. And he said, go be Wendy. Like
What a
he
blessing,
knew that.
because my guess is he was making a lot of money off of all your
I know that,
sales.
yeah.
And
But
and he was selfless enough to say that to you.
yeah, to give me, it's actually even in my book too. But, and I can remember right before I resigned, right before I told him, I went into one of the model homes and there was a butterfly, a painting of a butterfly. And I was waiting for him to get off the phone. And I was getting nervous and I was like, should I do this? Should I still do this? Like, there's a reason why he's on the phone. Maybe this is my opportunity to be like, fuck it all. I'm not going to do it. And it took me back to this moment as a little girl in school when the teacher brought in all of these little, well, the caterpillars. So you could watch how a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. And I can remember watching the caterpillars eat all the little leaves, and then they would form the chrysalis. And I was just so fascinated by these things. And I can remember asking the teacher, I said, okay, so why aren't they out of the cocoon? You know, why aren't they out of there? She's like, well, Wendy, she said they have to, you know, pump their wings and they'll bust through the chrysalis. And so I went to my desk and I grabbed the little, you know, scissors, little tiny little scissors, and I said, let's cut the top off and take the butterfly out. And she said, oh no, we can't do that because if you take the butterfly out before she's ready, she will be deformed and she'll die. And I remember that. And I was like, I had been in those last 2 years of my life, of rebuilding my life, I was in that chrysalis. I was doing all the healing and the rebuilding and the recovering, and it was my fucking time.
And it feels
It,
like it's taking forever. I'm sure you had
oh,
thoughts of, when is this going to change?
yeah,
This is taking so long. And a lot of people get in that, and then their egos can really create a story that they buy into of, well, because this isn't happening in 60
right.
days, 90 days, then it's not meant for
Hmm.
me. And then they take their foot off the gas. I'm sure you've seen this with countless people.
Oh, yeah, all the time. But I think, you know, again, having my first husband die at 26, my brother at 49. And I think even if you rock your blue zones, if you will, and you live until you're 110, it's a blink of time in eternity. And think of how much freaking time we waste on nonsense or waiting to start or, and yes, like recovering perfectionist. I used to have I had to have every ducky in a row before I could even make a move until I realized I was like, shit, I'm the one in charge of these damn ducks anyways. Like they can follow me, right? But so many of us don't start because we think it has to be perfect, or what will people think? You know, I mean, a lot of people say, even too, I saw this on social media the other day. They're like, you know, most people think that, you know, other people are thinking about you, but they're really not. I'm like, no, they actually are. They
They
actually are
they
thinking
actually
about.
are, and likely judging you.
Oh, for sure. But let's give him something to judge then. Let's really give him something to talk about. Because is it really going to matter? You know what I mean? Like, in the end, is it really going to matter?
And
I mean,
I've learned that because listen, we all have judgment within in us. I can get judgy
mm,
McJudgerson. It's usually when I am not honoring myself and
mhm,
following my true path, and then I can get triggered. You know what I used to get triggered about? You would have triggered me because you have a book out. Anyone who
mm,
had a book out, who had a great story, because I was
mm.
resisting doing that, I would not be judgy, like, who does she think she is? It was more like, oh, well, like, she
It-
must have a rich husband, and she must, that's why she could write a book, and she has all this extra time and luxury. So
Handed
it's
to her on a silver platter.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I would create a story, but
Mhm.
thankfully, I've done a gazillion years of therapy. I really knew that, what is it like if you're pointing at one finger at someone, you have
Yes.
four pointing back or whatever. And it's like
Mm.
I knew that it was really within me. I was holding myself back, and you were
Yeah.
representative of that. And
Yeah.
now that's part of your mission and purpose here is
Mhm.
to you're showing people what it's like when you bet on yourself, when you set the boundary, when you take the risk, when you do the thing, when you keep going, even when what you want to do is cut the top off the
Mhm.
caterpillar.
Yeah, like
You're
just sting me to
showing
it.
it,
Yep.
right? And now you are that beacon of light for people, as am I. But that also comes with it triggering a lot of people too in your personal
Oh, for
life
sure.
and strangers.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure, and I still do. I mean, the trolls. I think there's a story. Yeah, there's a story in my book about a troll that triggered me on Instagram when I drove to Santa Fe. Like my first stop was St. Louis, which was where I was born, which that was a coincidence. I hadn't been back there until I was, since I had been 9 years old. So that was crazy. But then in Santa Fe, I can remember I was lying in the hammock and I was just like enjoying the moment, like that I've arrived type of feeling, like I fucking did this shit. I was like sipping my wine, I'm looking at my RV, the sun, and I was just like, oh, this is great. My phone dings, and some idiot says to me, because I think I had taken a picture and it showed two chairs. And I would always, because I always like, besides safety wise, it always good to show like as
Oh,
if
that's
I'm with
smart.
someone.
I never thought of that. That's
Yeah.
very smart.
So someone had said, like, why do you always have two chairs out? Like, it's not like you have someone. Besides, you're a divorced old woman. No one wants you anyways. Done and on and on and on. Now, the Wendy now is be like, whatever. But that, it triggered me to where I was like, the narcissist that I grew up with, same type of thing. Where it was like, oh, yeah, they're probably right. I am an old woman that can't get anyone. Right. Yeah, why do I have two chairs?
And it took
Even
you
if
out
it's,
of that moment of
yes,
pure serenity.
yes, I was so pissed. I was like, God dang it. No, this is not going to happen to me anymore. But it's like we talked about earlier, it's managing it. It doesn't mean you never get triggered, right? The triggers get smaller and smaller. The trolls get smaller and smaller. And I mean, I've probably been more triggered in my life in the last 90 days, 90, 120 days. And I've been using it as a way to like, okay, let's go. We got this.
What
And
I
it's
say, and you guys, if you've not been watching any of my videos, and if you've not done my your quantum leap guided walking meditation series, I
yes,
literally say this. It's because you're about to quantum jump to a whole nother level. And
yeah.
that's when we get stripped down all the shit that we maybe even a little bit knew we were caring, but not paying
I know.
attention to, and some stuff we don't know, all surfaces, and it is so fucking uncomfortable. How
Yeah.
are you navigating that?
I'm actually going through it very mindfully. So, first of all, my dad passed away in January. But right before that, I actually had surgery. I had both of my ovaries and my fallopian tubes taken out. That was like not expecting that. And they had said, well, you need 6 weeks of recovery after the surgery. 2 weeks into it, like I was just getting settled on the couch to watch Netflix, and I get a call that my dad's dying.
Oh,
So I flew from Portugal to Arizona, which is quite a long
while
trip.
you're recovering from a major
While I'm recovering,
surgery.
I actually forgot I was recovering. I took off and I'm on the island of Madeira. So I was literally, as I was taking off, I was like, oh shit, I don't think I'm supposed to be flying. I was like, oh my God, too late now. But I wouldn't have missed it, at all to be with my dad. But yeah, my dad passed away, and then I ended the relationship with my mother.
So,
So
meaning
three,
you went no contact for the first time in
mhm,
your life?
three huge losses, and it's so wild because I just wrote a blog post about this today on midlifeology. And I had not thought about it until that moment when I was typing it this morning, that those three losses, they were like deaths of the rebirth of the births, right? Like my ovaries that gave birth, my parents that gave me birth. It was the ending to the beginning. And this morning, as I was writing, I had this epiphany about, as you look back at your life and you start to connect the dots, it's like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And as I look back at those pivotal traumatic moments, even the recent ones, and I take it all the way back and I follow that thread, and as it unravels and unravels, I get to that little girl. And I don't think I have ever mourned for that little girl. That, God, she, like, the fucking armor she had to carry and the shit that she put up with, and she handled it like a boss. And I feel bad for her. I really do. And I'm so grateful for her, but I want her to relax.
Yeah.
And you had an episode on maybe 6 or 7 ago about play, right? No coincidence. The word play is actually in my subtitle on my book. But yes, I want her to come out and play. Like we all have this little child that wants to come out and play and just be untethered and unleashed and unapologetic. And we deserve that. And but I did realize after I wrote that this morning and I had that epiphany, then I was like, oh, what show am I coming on to? What am I going on today? I was like, oh, Project Me.
How
Perfect. I was
how
like,
funny.
I know.
Interesting synchronicity.
Yeah. So it's all come full circle. And I know you asked this question probably about 20 minutes ago. Was it rainbows or potholes? And it's been all of it. But that's the thing. I've learned to hold light in one hand and darkness in the other, joy in one hand and grief in the other. Like you can do both. Whereas before, I used to take this grief or this sadness and I put it up on a really high shelf. I'll get to it later because I am not allowed to deal with that. I'm not allowed to be sad because I got to take care of everybody else. But now I don't put it up on a shelf. I'm just like, okay, here it is. Like I boohooed drinking my coffee this morning, writing that blog post. I just let it out. And then I'm like, okay, cool. You know, I think of emotions as energy in motion and just letting it flow, just letting it flow through you. And I remind myself that I'm a human being being human. We all are. Like I think we tend to forget, like you're a human being. Allow yourself to just be and embrace it. Don't be scared of who you are or who you've been or who you could become. Just be.
For the person listening who has and is feeling like, because feelings aren't necessarily facts, is feeling like I have pursued my thing. I've spent the money. I've done the healing work. I've written the book. I have a Substack. I've even started social media. I've I've done all this and nothing is still working. And I am
Mhm.
spending a lot of money with very little
Yeah.
coming in. And now they're wanting to have an argument with you, even listening to your story, the yeah buts. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
need to make money here, honey. I can't just go like drive
Hmm.
off in an RV and to like Santa Fe. Like I have responsibilities. I have children. I
Hmm.
have this. And I'm sure you've heard people say this to you. Oh, I would love to do what you're doing, but I can't because blah blah blah
Oh
blah blah
yeah.
blah blah. What do you have to say to this person? Because I know how convincing that voice can be of, well, it's not working and it's not, and I've done this for a
Hmm.
year, I've done it for 3 years, and nothing's changing. And I don't have I don't have much proof to go
Hmm.
off of that it's working. What do you do then?
I think you give yourself permission to pivot if you need to. I think sometimes we start something and we feel like we have to stay with it for life because, oh my gosh, what would people think if like, oh my, I need to get out of this. And she only did it for 2 years. Oh my gosh, who does she think she is? I knew she wasn't gonna be a success, right? Give yourself permission to pivot. And also at the same time, I think it's good to do meditations, walking meditations, any type of meditations. Listen to that inner voice. And if you feel that whisper that says, hey, hang in there, or you're 3 feet from gold, right? Did you ever read the book 3 Feet from Gold?
Yeah, a long time
Right?
ago. Excellent book.
Excellent. I know. And it's based on a true story. So those that haven't read it, it's yeah, it's a story about these miners that own this land and they're digging for gold. And they're digging and digging and digging for years. And they're like, fuck, like there's not any gold here. So they sell the land. This guy buys it. Sure enough, he starts digging 3 feet, he hits gold. So hang in there if you feel that that's what you need to do. And I don't know, to me, what's the saying of do what you love and you never work a day in your life, something like that. I've never, since I've started this, I have never felt like I love it.
Yeah.
And I've never had that before. I've always done
Same.
jobs for survival,
Same.
always. And I absolutely love it. So you figure out a way. And I think there's a lot of, I mean, I guess if we put ourselves in the artist category, right? There's a lot of artists you see that were like, you hear their story, of them, playing in bands in some dive bars or something like that. And then all of a sudden they hit it big, right? You have to believe in yourself and know that you can do it.
Yeah. What would you say is a boundary, or maybe you have like a couple that no matter how uncomfortable it is to set, whether it's with yourself or other people, that will change your life, that have changed yours?
That's a good question. A boundary that I think in order to, you have to know your boundaries. And it depends on the person, right? the boundary that you have with your partner is going to be different than the barista at Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
And you have to define those boundaries. You have to decide what you're going to actually do if someone crosses that boundary. How many chances do you give them, right? Is how valuable is that relationship to you? Is that person that you're in that relationship with, is it worth giving it another chance and another chance? And I think the more that you chip away at yield block, the more that you chip away at the chunk of marble and things that are not in alignment with you, you get to know that inner angel, and it's easier because you're so protective of her now.
Yeah,
You're not gonna,
cannot go back and I refuse to go back. And even if that
yeah,
means I end up with having only a couple close people in my life, which is the case, by the way, currently.
yeah. Hmm.
That doesn't mean that can't change. Um, then so
Yeah,
be it because I ain't going back there. No
no,
fucking way. I worked way too fucking hard to get there for some
yeah,
bullshit. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And
I
I
know,
don't
isn't it
care.
amazing though? Like, as you look back and you're like, oh my God, how did I believe all of that crap?
I'm blown away of what I put up with in business, in personal life, and all of
Hmm.
it. But like you were saying about, that little girl and you, I have so much compassion for teenager Tiffany, for 20 something Tiffany.
Hmm.
I didn't know any better until I did. There weren't many people. In fact, really, there weren't any people
Hmm.
like you or me, like people you could actually like relate to that weren't like a Marianne Williamson, like someone who's like almost
Yes.
like a celebrity status, or
Hmm.
I put them on a pedestal, like a Louise Hay was my, like, I
Mm.
call her my,
Yeah.
godmother of the spiritual world. To me, that was like an anomaly. Almost
Yes.
like a Mother Teresa. Like, well, that's so far away
Yes.
from me. There was no one that was really relatable that I felt really got it to where my
Hmm.
ego would even allow it in to listen
Yes.
to it and buy into it.
Hmm. No, I was the same way. Yeah, I know. And I think, we talked about this earlier. I think that's what's different now. There are more trailblazers out there. And we need them, right? Like hence the name of my book, Women Waking Up, right? Like we need to wake up
And
to our
I feel
greatest
we're
potential.
being collectively called. This is what I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you. I feel we've been collectively called, those of us who are heart centered, those of us who are intuitive, those of us who've done the work, we're being
Hmm.
collectively called on an energetic level to rise because our world needs us more than ever. And I feel that is why so many women especially
Yes.
are in this moment of exactly what you help women with, where I have clients who are professors at major institutions that are very well known for that, doctors, people
Hmm.
who've spent their decades of their life and their persona and identity is attached to this whole thing,
Yeah.
and they can't do it anymore.
Hmm. Did you know that I think it's women between the ages of 46 and 54 is the fastest growing age group of entrepreneurs?
Doesn't
There's a
surprise
reason for
me.
that. Yeah, it's so freaking awesome.
Because
And
it's
then you
like
know,
I've done it this long this way. I feel
yeah,
like it helps you get to a fuck it point faster. Thankfully,
yes.
I was kind of forced into it. So were you. We
Mm-hmm.
were forced into it by a higher source to our
Yeah,
fuck it point sooner.
yeah,
So, in my opinion, we could be the light and the
yeah.
leader to show women the way and to help people along. But
Mm-hmm.
When you get to a certain point in life and you've been here and you've done that long enough, you get to the point of, fuck, I can't keep doing this.
I know. I know. And also at the same time of, I know this sounds really corny, but really embracing the darkness, embracing your tough times. There are so many freaking lessons. I'm sure that you can relate to this. There's so many lessons in those toxic relationships and those breakdown moments in the dark night of the soul. There's so much wisdom in there if you unpack it and you allow it to, like, you embody it basically. That's what freaking moves you through these tough times, because you're always going to have tough times, right? It's inevitable. We're always you There's no way to get out of this lifetime without a loss. It's impossible. You're always going to have a loss. So you just become a lost boss. You just get really.
A boss of the losses.
Yes, exactly. You just get really good at it. And that's kind of what I've been practicing in my life lately through those recent losses. I'm like, okay, we got this shit. Because I know how to maneuver through that, but in a different way. It's for me this time.
Because
It's not to make peace. Yeah.
anyone would give you the pass, the excuse. I mean, these are
Hmm.
major losses you experienced
Yeah.
where it's like, I would understand if you packed up and quit everything and went back
Yep.
to selling homes and went back to a safe, conventional life.
Yeah.
Like or you actually burning the whole damn thing down and
Hmm.
doing nothing for a year and completely self sabotaging and saying,
Yep.
I'm not capable of even moving right now. I'm in such grief.
Yep.
99% of people would co sign on that.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't. I actually, when I came back from being with my dad when he passed, and I did, I canceled a few of interviews like for like a week.
Right.
But this feeds my heart and soul, and like to connect with others. And I think that's what all really craving is community and connection, to know you're not alone, right? And I love being the guinea pig, right? I love being the midlifeologist, if you will, for everyone out there. Like, I've studied me, I've studied my experiences, my life. And that's really what I want everyone else to do. Like, become your own little guinea pig. See how you maneuver through shit. How can you do it a little bit better? How can you be more at peace? How can you turn up the dial and bring in a little bit more joy and gratitude in your life? And it's like, once you realize that you have control over your brain, your body, your life, it's like, oh, like, so many of us didn't weren't given that. Like you and I, where it's like, oh my gosh, like being with a narcissist, you're like, no, you're not allowed to think for yourself.
I
You
still
know?
sometimes have to remind myself and I start laughing. It's
Yeah.
it's wild. It's absolutely wild because obviously I believe there is a greater force in charge ultimately,
Yeah.
but there's so much within our control that so many of us have either were never taught or forgotten that it's about a
Hmm.
decision and a choice that we get to fucking make at any fucking time and any day.
Yeah.
Just like you decided, I'm booking the flight to Nashville. I'm buying the
Yeah.
RV. I don't even know how to fucking drive an RV. I'm putting down a ton of money I've never put down before. And then coming back and quitting a job that makes me a
Which
half
is,
a
oh yeah.
million dollars. My guess is that's the most money you've ever made in a career, is my guess. And you got to decide and choose that. You
Yeah.
continue to choose.
Yeah.
I chose to move to Portugal. I'm choosing to do
Yeah.
you no one else is gonna choose and do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, like the acronym in my book, The Seven Lessons, is freedom. And I asked myself, like during that, as you know, I'd be driving for hours, and I'd just be me, myself, and I cruising. And I would ask myself questions like that, like, what is freedom really? Like, it's just like, we ask, what is success? What is freedom? And to me, freedom meant being free of all of those bullshit beliefs that I had adopted for so long, and the toxic relationships and the behaviors that weren't really me. I was only reacting because that's what I was trained to do. It was being free from all of that. And I mean, there's a reason why my RV is named Felicia, as in,
Bye, Felicia.
bye, Felicia. Bye. Bye, Felicia. Yeah. I mean, there's like a lot of meaning to that. And too funny, but Hydro Flask people out there, how we have all the stickers and shit on our Hydro Flask. The very first sticker, do you have a sticker? What should
As I'm holding
I
up mine for our YouTube people at Project Me TV.
like the very first sticker I got for my pink Hydro Flask was given to me by my therapist in Chicago, and it said, "Bye, Felicia."
I fucking love this therapist.
She's the mom. I love her. I love her.
Incredible. Well, thank you for
Oh my
sharing
God.
your story with us, these
Yeah,
nuggets of
thank you.
wisdom. You guys, you can swipe up on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all the places and access her book, Women Waking Up. You clearly need to get this. Go follow her at Hello Wendy Valentine. I'll have that in the show notes as
Thank
well.
you.
Here on YouTube at Project Me TV. It's all of the links are in the description. And I don't want you guys to just listen to this damn episode and walk away
Mhm.
feeling I'm going to do it. That's great. I want you to feel that, right? Wendy wants you to
Yeah.
feel that. That's wonderful. We want you to fucking move and do
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
a
I mean, I
move.
think, yeah, you don't just become a powerful woman or a powerful man. You act like a powerful man or woman, and then you become that, right? Just take action. It does not have to be perfect. And actually, it's the messiness of it all. That's the gold right there. That's where you find the wisdom, and that's how you get better and better at knowing yourself, knowing your craft, knowing life, and just have fun. I mean, really, just like have fun.
Yeah, I
Life's too
mean,
short.
it, and you are someone who can speak to that. You've had so
Yeah.
many undeniable reminders of how short life is. And
Yeah.
most people listening, you've had a reminder and you know that. And I know that's not been enough. But at the very damn least, create the persona of the person you want to be and determine that, right? Who do I want to be and what do I want? That's an
Hmm.
action,
Yeah.
not where you're actually writing that down and you're living that every day. Coincidentally, my quantum walking series, my 7-part series that I'm gifting you guys for a short period of time right now, and the Fire Horse Identity Workbook,
Ooh.
which is really interesting, goes perfectly with this. So, those of you who like a guided journal and don't just want to open up a blank page that feels like a little much, you can go access that at projectmewithtiffany.com/quantum walk. And then I also have that in the link inside of the show notes for you guys. So now you have no fucking excuse. Okay. And you have 2 shows you can binge. You've got all the support, you've got all the proof. We've taken it all away. You have a great access
Yeah.
to a book that you can literally purchase immediately and have at your door tomorrow. So I don't want to fucking hear it, okay?
We don't want to hear it. And by the way, I know most authors only, give bonuses up until when the book releases. I kept the bonuses, so there's over $500 of bonuses that comes with the book.
Oh, cool.
It's the bomb. There's a playbook, there's meditations, there's a workshop, there's a Spotify playlist. Oh,
Oh, wow.
a digital vision board, which I love.
Very
So there's
cool.
tons of stuff. Yeah. So
I'm excited to read your book.
yeah,
I'm
it's fun.
thrilled and I mean, that's so generous of you to keep the bonuses in there. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll have to say too, not to knock any self-help books out there because I love them all because they've all gotten me to where I'm at. Women Waking Up is less fluff and more formula. It's probably, and you've heard most of my story today. So my book is probably 30% of my story and 70% of how the heck do you actually do it. So I give you these steps. So if you're someone that like needs to be told, do this today and then do this tomorrow, you'll love it.
Well,
There, and actually I'm so confident that if you actually did everything that's in the book, there's no way your life could not change and you would become a brand new person. I'm confident of
and
that.
you're in charge of taking that action or
Hmm.
allowing your
Yep.
excuses to take over, but that
Yep.
new version of you doesn't do that.
Yeah.
That new version of you follows through, takes the action, does all the things whether you feel like it or not.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wendy.
Exciting.
This
Thank
was such
you.
a great conversation over my morning coffee to start my day. Now I'm like, oh, maybe I do like podcasting in the morning.
You know, you're like, it's fresh.
Thank you.